Hey everyone, Ron Milligan with Remax Select here, coming to you with our latest condominium numbers. That's what I got for you today. This, as usual, is as of the middle of the month, February 15th, is when I run these numbers, typically in the middle of the month. And it's for our selected area, close-in area, basically the North Pearl District down to the South Waterfront, and from the river to the foot of the West Hills. So just the close-in market. And we'll be looking at some of the supply numbers, active listings. We'll be looking at some of the pending numbers, comparing them to the previous months and last year. And then we'll look at the sales and how they did on the market versus the previous month and also last year for some context. And then last up, the latest building, new construction building to hit the market is the Ritz Carlton, and they hit the market late last week, and we've got some numbers on pricing and sizes and that sort of thing. So stick around to the end, and I'll get through to those new listings. So first thing, the number of active listings that we had was up 18% versus January. So at 183 versus 155 last month. Not a big surprise there. This is the time when folks start listing their homes for sale. Some folks are a little earlier to the market than others, than our typical springtime listers. But not a surprise. I mean, this is when this happens. If we look at this year versus last year, though, so our supply this year versus our supply last year at this time, the listing count, active listing count, was 332 versus the 183 that we have right now. So that's like a 45% decrease last year to this year. So inventory-wise, we're doing a lot better this year than we were than last year. So a little bit of context there. The number of pending deals, so it's kind of how we measure the demand, buyer activity. Number of pending deals is up. We're looking at 122 listings in mid-February versus 90 in mid-January. That's a 35% increase. And if we look at this year versus last year, we're looking at 68 pending transactions last February versus 122 this year. So that's almost double last year to this year. So when we put it in context, what we know is that the demand is a lot higher and the supply is a lot smaller. So the supply and demand dynamic is looking a lot better for sellers right now. Looking at the number of sales that we had over the last 30 days, we're at, mid-January, mid-February, 71 transactions. That's compared to 79 in mid-January and 74 in December. So not a terrible number. Maybe we'd like to see that one a little bit higher. But again, for context, if we look at February of 2021, that number was 57. So that's 25% more. It's a 25% increase in the number of properties that sold during that time period. Our inventory in months did go up a little bit. So mid-January, our inventory was 1.76 months. And this month, it's 2 and a tail, so 2.05 months of inventory. That is still seller's advantage territory, although it doesn't always feel like that, and we'll see that when it comes to the sale price and the days on market. Speaking of days on market, that number has right now we're at 81, and that's for the average days on market, and for the median we're looking at 50 days on market, and those are for the homes that sold mid-January to mid-February. And then the average sale price as a percentage of the asking price is a number that we're always looking at. That number is 97.5 approximately. So they listed a home at one price and they got 97.5% of the asking price. When we're looking at the original asking price versus the sale price, then that number does go down. That number is at 95.17. So they listed at a certain price, then they did a price reduction, and then it sold at what price versus that original list price, and that's approximately 95% of that original list price. The average sale price is $522,916. That's actually down from January of last year, when that average sale price was $525,268. And that's the first time that we've seen a lower number like that. Part of what could be going on here is that we're dealing with a pretty small sample. So, in a small sample like that, if we have a couple of really large transactions and or a bunch of really small transactions that can skew those numbers in one direction or another, we're only a month and a half into 2022. So we'll just track that and see how those numbers are looking going forward. And the last thing that I want to talk about is the Ritz Carlton. So the Ritz Carlton is that property. It's down on Southwest 10th Avenue, downtown, just off of Washington. It's where the food trucks used to be, next to Target in the downtown Target, so just north of the Target location. And that's new construction that's going up, and it's going to be a Ritz-Carlton hotel for a certain number of floors. And then it looks like probably somewhere around the 21st floor to maybe the 35th floor is where they're going to have some condominiums in the building. The pricing on these units so far is pretty aggressive for Portland. So we're looking at units that they only listed about 5 or so we're kind of going on small, not a lot of information. 1123 on the small side for square footage, up to 3,400, which looks more like a penthouse or junior penthouse level property. The pricing for the units that they listed is somewhere around 2.4 million up to 7.3 million. And the price per square foot ranged from about $1,380 per square foot to $2,157 per square foot approximately. To put that in context, the average price per square foot in the metro area, in our sample area for the close-in condominiums, is only around $425 per square foot, and that's for everything that's sold in the last 30 days or so. So the pricing is pretty aggressive. They don't really feel like Portland prices, so we'll just keep an eye on it and see how they do. It is supposed to be super high-end, luxury level condominiums, but again, that pricing feels really aggressive for our market. Okay, so that's what I have for you this week. As I always say, all real estate is local. If you're curious about what's going on in your neck of the woods, whether it's a single-family home or condominium, or in your specific building, feel free to reach out to me, and I'm happy to share what I know or do a bit of research for you.